What's up? It's Lex with Feedback Audio, and today we're talking about vocal chains. So, a lot of people always come to me and they say, where do I start with the vocals? Let's give you some ideas on things that you can use, plugins and types of plugins that you can use to get going, and then we'll dive into an example that we have here. When you're talking about a vocal chain, you're going to see all kinds of things. You're going to use EQ, you might use dynamic EQ, definitely compression, maybe at multiple levels, de-essers for sure, some type of saturation is always helpful. And yeah, I think those are the main pieces. So you're going to see all that stuff today when we dive into our vocal here. Now, the vocal that we're using today is actually by Matthew Mozingo. It's for his song Stance in the Mirror. And this is actually a remix that has Junie on it as well. But today we're going to be focused on Matthew's vocal. So if we come over here to our session, I'll go ahead and just play you some of it, the hook and a little bit of the verse. That way you can get an idea of what we're working with, and then we'll go from there.
Show me what you're south side, let me in the daytime. We can spend a little more together. Now I be on the south side, girl, you know I'll make a try to take you to some places that are better. You hold all the love I know, for me do it all the others want. My attention is here, please dance in the mirror. Dance in the mirror. Not a bad side to you, strong boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby, give you what you want.
All right, so that gives you the basic idea of what we're working with. Matthew Mozingo is a fantastic artist. If you haven't checked out his music, go give it a like and a follow because it is awesome. He does incredible stuff. Me and Matthew have been working together for many years, and we've kind of got his vocal chain like dialed in. Now, it's different for every song. Let me repeat that. It's different for every song. One of the biggest mistakes people make with their vocal chain is they save it exactly how it is and they copy and paste it on every single song, which doesn't work because beats are different. Instrumentals are different sonically all the time, right? So even if you're using, like we did this whole album, every song you're going to see different tweaks for the vocals to make sure they fit in the texture of the beat. That's very, very important. You can't just get your vocal chain from your engineer and expect it to work on every song. It might be okay, but it's not going to get you the full way. So vocal chains are a great place to start. Especially if you've got a bass line, and only if you've recorded every vocal in the same exact environment with the same exact microphone and the same exact settings. If you just throw on the same vocal chain, but you've used different microphones, different settings, different gains, you're never going to get the same product. So it has to be super, super consistent. So take your notes while you're recording to make sure you can do the same thing for your artist every time. All right, so if we take a look at this vocal chain, here is our vocal. Let's take the effects off, and we're just going to go in and listen to just his voice here at the verse with the vocal chain on.
Not a bad side to you, strong boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby, give you what you want.
So we got a crispy vocal. I love Matthew's voice so much, and it's so fun to work with because you can really make it punchy and crispy, but still be that nice buttery smooth that he's looking for in his vocals. So here is that vocal chain completely off. This is what it sounds like.
Not a bad side to you, strong boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby, give you what you want.
And here's the back and forth of off and then on.
Not a bad side to you, strong boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby, give you what you want.
You can see right there that the vocal jumps out of the speakers at you once we've got the vocal chain on there. We have a lot of different stuff going, so we're going to break it down piece by piece just to show you what's going on. The very first thing in our chain, let me turn everything off except for console 1, which actually I'm going to pull up right here. I love using Softtube Console 1. I have the older one. I don't have the third one. I have number 2, but I love it a lot. I think it's really cool, and it's a cool way to mix with your hands. I think the SSL stuff sounds great, and I'm a big UA fan, so I love that I can load my UA plugins directly in here as well. So if you're looking at my screen right now, what you're going to see is that I've got a gate on, I have some EQ going, and I have an 1176 compressor. Now, the 1176 we've talked about in previous videos is a FET compressor, very fast and aggressive, and I love that thing just to start my vocal out, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and take all of these off and just add them in one at a time.
Not a bad side to you. Based on what I'm showing. Ain't seen your face enough. Is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby. Give you what you want.
So for the EQ, I'm not doing a ton of stuff. I'm keeping it really simple. You can see over here on my screen that I've got a filter cut kind of up here to about 100 hertz. Then I've got some dips maybe right here at about 700 hertz. And then definitely something right below 2K. I'm just pulling out some of those harsher frequencies and cleaning up the vocal a little bit. Then we're going to throw that compressor in. Here's before and after.
Not a bad side to you. Based on what I'm showing. Ain't seen your face enough. Is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby. Give you what you want.
And you can see I'm not doing a ton with that compressor. I have it set to a 4-to-1 ratio. I've got the attack a little bit fast and the release a little bit faster just to kind of make that vocal grab those initial transients of stuff. And you're going to see I'm not doing a ton. I'm only pulling out about 3 dB worth of gain reduction there. And this is just for when he hits those hard moments in his vocal. Matthew's a very smooth singer, but there's sometimes where things jump out. This is just going to grab those initial transients really, really fast off the jump. Then we have a gate on, which this is going to show you here on this meter. And it's going to show it'll be closed when he's not singing and it'll open up when he is singing. So right now you see that it's closed and you're going to see his vocal come through and open that gate up.
Not a bad side to you. Based on what I'm showing. Ain't seen your face enough. Is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby. Give you what you want.
Then you'll see it immediately close as he's done singing. So that gate is just actually helping add a little bit of pump and pressure in his vocal. So if you have a little gate going on, again, I'm not doing anything too crazy, but when he stops singing, it's going to make it silent instead of the airiness that's going on in the background of the recording. And that just adds, when he does go for something, not a bad side to you, it's really, really going to jump out at you because it's opening that gate really fast. Okay, then we also have a little bit of drive going on. I'm using the saturator inside of Soft Tube Console 1. This is the SSL 4000E, and it's just giving a little bit of saturation there, and then a little bit of the character knob as well, just to kind of brighten things up. Nothing crazy, but sounds awesome. Then the next thing you're going to always see me do is jump in with an EQ right away. Now, I've already EQ'd a little bit, so now I'm just going for things that I couldn't grab with that kind of more broad EQ that is the SSL EQ. Now I'm getting surgical, so I've got this Logic EQ up, and all I'm doing is pulling out a little bit between 2 and 3K.
Not a bad side to you. Based on what I'm showing. Ain't seen your face enough. Is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby. Give you what you want.
That frequency is just ringing a little bit to me, like I can hear it in my barefoots, and it's coming out a little bit just sharp to me. And it was hovering the entire time. It's not like it's just poking out here and there. I can constantly hear that kind of happening in the background. So I just wanted to pull that out just a tad. I'm doing about 5 dB worth of reduction there on the EQ. That is a cut, not a boost, a cut. Then the next thing I'm going to go for straight away is a de-esser, right? In any vocal, it's good to get those S's out of the way early because as soon as you start doing more and more and more compression, those S's are going to get louder and louder and louder. So if you tame them earlier, you can deal with it as you go. You may find yourself using more than one de-esser in your vocal chain. That is okay as long as you're not giving your vocalist a lisp. Remember, if you overdo the de-esser, you can cook the signal very quickly. So my first de-esser is out here. All I'm doing is I'm using this Waves de-esser. I love this thing. I'm using the shelf function here, and I've got the threshold pulled down just so that when he hits those S's, you'll see the gain reduction happening right here under attenuation. Let me play that.
Not a bad side to you. Based on what I'm showing. Ain't seen your face enough. Is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby. Give you what you want.
And again, that's just going to hold him in a little bit. So here's before and after.
Not a bad side to you. Based on what I'm showing. Ain't seen your face enough. Is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby. Give you what you want.
Just way more controlled in general. We don't want to get rid of that S. We just need a little bit. And remember, the de-esser is just a compressor, but you're picking that exact frequency. So on mine, I've got it right here at 5,500, right? So we're right there. That's where we're hearing those S's, and we're doing a shelf. So everything above that's getting pulled down because the S's are pretty crispy in that mic that we recorded Matthew on. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to jump for is another compressor. We've talked about compression and how it can work together with other compressors, and this is the perfect example. So you're going to have that Originally, you're gonna have that 1176.
Not a bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is it?
That's doing some gain reduction, but the next thing we're gonna add, there's still a little jumping in the vocals, so we're adding an LA2A, which is an optical compressor. It's gonna be very smooth and slow, and it's gonna grab the back end of what he is singing and kind of hold everything down into place. So let me show you what that sounds like before and after.
Not a bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby, give you what you want.
Now, we're not doing a ton of gain reduction, but you do hear that it gets quite louder. And that's because I use some makeup gain to send a little bit more signal right here. You switch to output, send a little bit more signal into the compressor.
Not a bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby, give you what you want.
Now, there are times where I'm going just a tiny bit into the red, which everyone would be like, oh my gosh, the red, we can never be in the red. The red is okay sometimes. I'm adding a little tiny bit of saturation with this compressor. This compressor is always going to kind of bring out the low mids of anything. Like I typically find between like 300 and 600 hertz, you get like a nice little boost with this compressor, just the way that it squishes the high end compared to the lows. And so it can be really, really nice for just fattening up a vocal and bringing it out to the surface a little more. Again, using an 1176 to shave just the initial transients off just a bit, and this one to kind of grab the back of that and keep everything nice and smooth. That's the goal for a vocal like this. The next thing you're going to find is that compressor created a couple of issues. Like I said, you're always going to get this like little boost, and I found that mine was really coming out between 8 and 1K.
Not a bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby, give you what you
And
want.
again, that's another cut. These are subtle cuts because I'm already working with a great vocal. We recorded it really well. It sounds awesome, but I'm just trying to shape it here. So again, you can hear that frequency ringing all the time. It's kind of stuck in there, that cluttery kind of nasal sound. So I'm just going to pull that down about 5 dB there. And then we also have this higher frequency.
Not a bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby.
Again, that's just sub of 3K, and you can hear that thing ringing all the time. This is why it's important to have yourself some nice reference monitors or headphones that you feel really good about. Headphones is a great way to start. You do not need to get reference monitors unless you have a room that's treated and you feel good about all that and you have it all dialed in correctly. So get yourself a nice pair of headphones and listen for these things that are ringing and kind of not feeling good in the vocal. So again, the compressor kind of caused those problems. I didn't have those problems until I added that LA2A. But the LA2A has character and vibe, and it's going to add a little bit of boosts here and there in different frequencies. So I'm not undoing what it's done. I'm just kind of shaping what it's done so it's still pleasant to the ears. That's the goal. The next thing I'm going to come in here with is a C4, the multiband compressor from Waves. Now, I'm doing a couple things here. I am squeezing in the low mids, right? Between, where am I at? I'm like right here at, let's say 100 hertz all the way to 1K. So I'm squeezing just a tad there just to brighten up the vocal and contain some of those low mids. And then I'm also doing a boost, a little tiny, tiny boost with this compressor at 2K because I felt like I was losing a little bit from that LA2A. I wanted a little bit more boost. So again, these things together is what's going to help. So here's before and after.
Not a bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby, give you what you want. Yeah, step aside for you, made me fall in love. Tell me that's the case for us. Not in a race, but I can see it right now. Clear as eyes.
Okay, so that's doing a lot of drastic work, right? It's awesome. It's we're containing those low mids without losing them. So I was feeling like the vocal was just a little too boomy for the beat. This beat is really like warm and kind of like swirly, and so I don't want the vocal to get lost inside of that. I want to really cut out through the texture. So a little bit of a squeeze on those low mids and then a boost in that 2K range is just going to make it sharper and cut right through the mix. Now, I always talk about this, but boosts can be dangerous. If you're boosting anything in an EQ, a compressor, whatever, sometimes when you're doing a boost, you end up thinking it's better just because it's a little bit louder. That's why I like to do subtractive EQ. But in this case, just that little bit, and I'm barely doing anything. I think I'm doing, yeah, 2.8 worth of gain in 2K, and just a little bit just to bring out those mids. All right, now that we're done with that, we are going to go on to Pro Q3. So, as soon as we started doing some squishing, right? Every time you compress, you're going to have different things come up because remember, you're taking the signal that's like this with the quieter parts down here and the louder parts up here, and you're squishing it together and lifting the volume. So, things are going to appear more and more. You're going to have problems kind of show up that weren't necessarily there before. I mean, they were, but the compressor is just showing you more. Wow, those are really in there. So you got to kind of dial it in how you need to. So I'm using Pro Q3 to do a couple of things. I'm really only using it for dynamic EQ, and I'm using it because I don't want to EQ out these frequencies. I just want to compress them in the moments that they are jumping too much. I'm going for a very smooth vocal that I can place out in the front that's going to be like butter on top of this beat. So I don't want anything jumping. So you can see, I'm going to go ahead and hit play, and you're going to see all of these different nodes doing a little bit of jumping.
Not a bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us? Like how you looking, baby, give you what you want.
So you see that some of them are jumping all the time, some are consistently being pulled down, and some only get pulled down maybe when there's an S or a word that kind of invokes that 1K, 2K frequency, and I'm just pulling those things down just a little bit, okay? So here's without.
Not a bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us? Like how you looking, baby, give you what you want.
I'm also using a low shelf with the dynamic EQ because I don't want to get rid of all the lows, but again, they feel like every time I'm doing more compression, they're kind of getting pulled out. And so on those sub frequencies, I'm just doing a little bit of a shelf. We're only going down about 4 dB there, maybe 5 dB. And it's just pulling it down when those vocal gets boomy in the low end. That's it. So nothing crazy. Again, here's before and after. And listen for tightness. What you want to hear is the vocal kind of get contained in a box and get a little sharper because we're trying to make it cut.
Not a bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us? Like how you looking, baby, give you what you want.
Awesome. So now that we've contained and controlled those lows, now we can add some saturation back in, which I think is going to bring this out even more. Oh, here comes the pup. If you guys don't know, I have a 105-pound hound dog. Her name is Piggy Girl, and she's the sweetest in the world. And she likes to come hang out in the studio with us all the time. So you might hear her walking around in the background. So, the next step, what's going to happen is we're going to add some saturation. Saturation is very, very important in a vocal because it just adds vibe and character. That is really all we're going for, just a little bit of extra sources and feel here. And so we're just doing a little bit of saturation on not very much at all on the normal setting for this Magma little tube. This plugin was free back in the day by Waves, and it's fantastic. They have an updated one now that's really cool too. But any kind of like tube saturation is fantastic on a vocal. I also like using Verve analog machines from UAD. I think that's a great saturator because it has different styles of tape saturation and different vibes in general. So that's the feel. But here is before and after some saturation.
Not a bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us? Like how you looking, baby, give you what you want.
And you can hear that just kind of jumps out at you. All you're doing is adding saturation, but it just feels like the whole vocal gains body without being bass heavy. See, that's when we were controlling the bass, tempering it down, getting it all under control. And now we can let it kind of expand and breathe with this saturator. Now you can overdo saturation. Check it out.
Not a bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face?
Obviously, that's too much, but if you dial it back to just a little bit, you hear the warmth come in and out. Here's before and after one more time.
Not a bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby, give you what you want.
Awesome, awesome vocal sound right there. Now, because we've got saturation and a lot of compression and all this stuff going on, I'm feeling those S's are still popping at me a little bit, but it's only in one specific spot. And it's very high up. You can actually open up your Pro Q to kind of see it happening right
Not a
here.
bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us? Liking.
So we've got some jumping in that 8K kind of range, 9K kind of range. And so I'm going to come in with another de-esser. Now this de-esser is the Logic de-esser. I like this one because I can set the max reduction on how much is going to come out. And so I have this set at the bell, a bell node here. I have the frequency at 8855. And I'm only doing 4 dB of max reduction here because I just want to barely shave that off. I'm not trying to do too much. Again, not going for the lisp. I just want enough because it's just starting to poke out with all that compression. So here's before and after. This is a subtle change, people.
Not a bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure.
Here's the beginning.
Not a bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure. You see.
And that's just grabbing that really, really high frequency without doing it with, I could have done it with the dynamic EQ or something like that, but I just like that that de-esser because you can set how much reduction is happening. I just wanted a little bit there just to shave off that S. Then the very last thing is I've got one more EQ to come in here and just round out my final touches. 3K was getting ringy. Between 1 and 2K is getting a little bit ringy. And then there was this little boominess happening at 400 hertz that I didn't want to lose, but just shave down a tad. So I'll go ahead and play what those sound like.
Not a bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us? Liking how you looking, baby, give you what you want. Yeah, I step aside for you, make me fall in love. Tell me that's the case for us. Not in a race, but I can see you right now. Clear as eye. Not a bad side to your storm, boy, I'm sure. You see your face enough, is this a face for us?
In my experience, between 1 and 2K and 3K are always going to be a problem with a condenser microphone. Not necessarily always, but if you're recording a vocal with a large diaphragm condenser, you're getting it set up, there is always just a little bit too much 3K in my opinion, at least from my referencing and my monitors and what I like in music. Sometimes the 3K screams way too much, and I hear that a lot in people who are learning how to mix. Those frequencies pop too much. And then there's always something between 1 and 2K. Not necessarily always, I guess that's a little harsh to say, but you're going to find problem childs anywhere between 1K and 4K in a vocal typically. That's just how microphones react, that's how they respond, and that's just what it is. So you can use EQs, and you can see that I stepped EQs. I didn't always do it in one EQ. I kind of, what did I need in the moment? And set it up that way. The important thing about mixing, especially a voice, is that you're not just throwing stuff on to throw stuff on. Now, as you're learning and getting started, sure, pull stuff up and twist knobs and try to figure it out. But pick tools that you need for the fix. Like you'll see me go EQ after a compressor. You'll see me go EQ after the saturator because I'm fixing the things that may have there's good happening from the saturator, but there's also a little bit of negative. So I'm stepping back and just fixing that with the EQ. Small steps, nothing too drastic, nothing too crazy, because we have a great source that we recorded originally. It's all about a good source. But even if you don't have the best source in the world, you can still use plugins and mixing to make your vocal amazing. I have literally had people record on their cell phone and send it to me, and we made it sound great. I've literally recorded somebody through the jail phone, and then we made a beat and cleaned it up and made it sound awesome. So you can get any source and make it work, right? It's just part of the fun. But if you start with a great source, you can enhance and you don't have to be saving all the time. That's what's important. Well, thanks for tapping in with us about vocal chains. It's easy to do too much, so try not to do too much. But you need to explore too. It's cool to take a vocal that sounds like shit and make it sound cool. So take your time with it, build it out step by step. Try multiple compressors, try a couple of different EQs to get you going, and definitely try some saturation in your vocal. I think you'll be surprised at what you get. Thanks for tapping in with us. Have a great day. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. We love you.